In this video, we're going to discuss mixing colors using a watercolor palette. We're first going to start by drawing a color wheel on a piece of watercolor paper. I like to make 3 circles in the shape of a triangle to start off for our primary colors. I'm next going to draw some squares in between those circles to represent my secondary colors. Next, I will be drawing triangles for the tertiary colors. If you find it helpful, you can also add labels to each of these. You can pre-label them with each color name, or you can label them with a 1 for primary, 2 for secondary, and 3 for tertiary. We're then going to pick up our brush to start painting with the primary colors. We're going to get a little bit of water on our brush, dip it into the palette, and then place our paint on the paper. Remember to always tap off excess water, move the brush on the paint, and then place it on the paper. We're not pouring water onto the palette, we're not scooping out the paint. We really don't want too much water, or else it will puddle or be too diluted and light. After doing one of the primary colors, like I started with red, you'll then do the next primary color in the circle, which is yellow, always cleaning off your brush between colors. And lastly, the final primary color will be blue that we paint down. Remember, you always want to tap off any excess water. You don't want to drown your palette, and the less water you have, the more control you have. Always wipe off your brush on a towel and or rinse on the cup to make sure that your palette, your paintbrush is nice and clean for the next color. After your primaries, we're going to start filling in our secondary colors. Here I'm putting down a purple. The color is a little off on the camera, but that is the purple directly from the palette. Since your palette has secondary colors of green, orange, and purple, you don't have to mix those. You can just go directly into your palette and grab it. As you can see, I'm actually accidentally making a mistake right here, but don't worry, we're going to talk about how to get rid of a mistake, which happens all the time. So I realized I wasn't thinking. I put down green between yellow and red. That should be orange. Yellow and red equals orange, not green. Yellow and blue make green. So since I realized this, what I'm first going to do is take a wet brush, just add a little water and try to wipe it off, dilute it. I'm then going to get my paper towel, and I'm going to absorb that ink and the pigment, dabbing it. You don't want to be rubbing your paper towel back and forth because you might rip apart the paper. Just light dabbing, okay? If you need to go back in for a little more water, you can always put that in, light little brush on top, and again, dab, absorbing it. It's not going to become completely white, but it will be a lot better than leaving it on there. There will be a little bit of residue, but you can always cover it up. So I'm going to put in the accurate color of orange there. Be careful if there's still a little too much water on your paper, as it might start bleeding or diluting. You can always come back to it if you make a mistake, and then let it dry and come back to that place. Put on the green, and then that will be our last of our secondary colors. Also, if you ever find that your water is just too dark and dirty and you're having a hard time getting your brush super clean, especially when you're using light colors, all you need to do is just change out your water in the sink. Dump it out, get some fresh water. Just make sure you don't fill up your cup too much, because then it was a lot more likely to spill. When you're mixing your tertiary colors, as you see me doing now, you're going to be mixing in your palette lid. Because again, we do not want to be mixing on top of the pure colors, because then you'll be mixing and ruining that pure color that's in the actual palette circle. You'll take a little bit of one color, put it in the palette lid, rinse off your brush, and then put a little bit of the other color in. So here I just grab some orange, rinse, grab a little yellow, mix them together in the palette lid. I'm then going to put that yellow-orange mixture right there in that triangle in between the two. If I think, oh, maybe that's a little too yellow, I might go back in and add a little bit more orange and just make sure that's nice and mixed. You're going to do that for each of the tertiary colors. You're going to mix the 2 colors that are next to each other. So you'll mix orange and red to make a nice red-orange. You'll also mix red and purple to make a nice purple or a violet red. You'll mix each of them nice teal with the blue and green, and those will go in each of the triangles. You can really get some beautiful, unique colors this way. When you're not just getting things straight out of the palette, it really makes it more unique because it's your own original mixing that really can never be mixed again, versus the ones that are straight from the palette are going to be very obvious that they're straight from the palette. So make sure you do take some time to make some custom colors as well, as oftentimes, right, these colors aren't exactly what we see in nature. So if you're trying to do something realistically, you don't want it to be bright and poppy, you do want to mix your own colors. The last thing I'm going to have you do is draw a little diagram of your brush. So you can always just place it next to your paper so you can kind of more easily copy the proportions. You're going to draw the handle, what's then called the ferrule next, the metal part. And then you're going to draw the bristles or the brush head. It's going to have a little bump in the center. That's called the belly. We're now going to label this drawing. So with our labeling, the part towards the left is the handle. That's the part of the brush that you are holding. Those three lines represent the crimp, which is how they are attached, the ferrule, the metal part, to the handle. The whole metal section is called the ferrule, and then where the ferrule meets the bristles is called the heel. The whole top section is the bristles. Remember to always store your brushes with the bristles up when you have done washing them in the cup. Otherwise, they'll get really badly bent, and I can't tell if they're dirty or clean. So always make sure to put the bristles up. The belly is where the water is held. It's a little bit thicker part, kind of bumps out, and the toe is the very top of the brush.